When I was 9, I got saved. We actually moved to a suburb of St. Louis, and I was a bus kid. A lady came and knocked on our door and asked me if I wanted to come to church. And so of course, I was, didn't know anybody and was in a new place. So I started going and I got saved and baptized when I was 9. And my mom actually got saved, and got baptized at the same time I did. But we didn't stay there very long. So we ended up moving back to Southwest Missouri. And I never was in church again my whole childhood.
About 15 years ago, um, I was living at home with my mom. She was ill. She had seizures. It was a very stressful time. I was a student in high school, and it was just a really stressful time. I had to take care of her. So to deal with that, to deal with the stress, the pain, the anger of it, I turned to drugs and alcohol.
Before I came to Springfield, I was a criminal. There was a lot of guns and drugs, and I didn't care about nobody anymore. All I thought about was myself. I didn't trust nobody, just trusted myself, and a lot of things went crazy. Finally, everything caught up with me. I was on the run with a fake ID and everything in LA, California, doing drugs out there. And my granddaughter was being born. That brought me back to Missouri. And so I turned myself in, did a little time, straightened up, and started working at a real job. And I met Chauntay. Met Chauntay there. And one thing led to another. I moved her in with me, got a place, moved her in with me, and raised Tristan together.
The turning point for me was I was out with some of my friends, and my son had gotten sick again. And I even went home. I even came back from where I was, and I went home and I saw him, and he was sick, and he looked at me. I still remember it. He looked at me, and he was just like, mommy, and he was sick. And I pushed him aside. The drugs were more important. I just pushed him aside, and I left, and I went out with my friends. And I was sitting there, and I was sitting in the dope house with my friends. I spent all of the money that I had saved up. I spent it all in one night. And the next day, I was stranded. I was by myself, miles away from my son. And I didn't know it then, but I know it now that it had to have been God saying, this is it. You have got a choice you need to make. Because I had this feeling come over me that I could not do this anymore.
You start thinking about, what is your purpose in life? And, I know I'm not here by accident. So what is God's plan for me here? And so that, to me, that just, it made it all make sense. My life really started to change when I really started to see things differently, just to experience God on a whole nother level.
I've wasted so much of my life, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it. And now I'm 53 years old. I've done nothing but drugs and stuff. And I'm 53 years old. And all I know, I got maybe 15 years, 20. And I'm going to give God every bit of it. Whatever He wants me to do, I'll do it.
There were many times I sat on those pews in church, and I would see people being baptized and saying, I was afraid to do it. I don't know why, but I was afraid. It was Satan telling me, you can't do this, or I don't know, but I just had this fear. And there were months that went by, and finally one day I was sitting there, and I just said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk up to that altar. I'm going to ask God for forgiveness, repent of my sins, what I did, how I treated my family, how I treated my son. And I repented, and I was saved and baptized.
On March 15th, 2009, I got saved and baptized. Now I have no cravings whatsoever. I have no heroin addiction. I have no methamphetamine addiction. I have no crack cocaine cut. I have no addictions anymore. Cigarettes is the worst thing that's happening to me, and I think that's being worked on right now.
All of a sudden, I was kind of on the outside of my old life looking in. I knew I wasn't the same person anymore. So things that maybe I used to not feel very strongly about, all of a sudden I started, feeling more strongly, about this is wrong, this, I shouldn't be doing this, or just, I don't know, everything just seemed different. Not instantaneously, it was more like a process over time that I felt like, and I don't think, by the world standards, I don't think that I necessarily was a bad person, just, knowingly engaging in sin, but all the little things that you just don't think about.
There's going to be a lot of people when I get to heaven that's going to be up there and going, my gosh, you're here, they'll let anybody in. They're not going to believe. I got a grandma up there, used to pray for me all the time. Wake up in the middle of the night and pray for me. She's going to be there. And I'm going to surprise her.